What's up, Giants fans, Hub watchers, YouTube subscribers, Twitter followers, Insta followers? It's your boy Noname. I'm back at it again with another Giants video. That another came out weird. But it's just an update video for y'all. I said if there was anything major that happens, I'll try to get it up as soon as possible. Coincidentally, the only major move that really happened, signing Mike Remmers, basically happened on Saturday, which is when I'm recording this, and I'm just going to be putting up Sunday, which is my regular upload schedule anyway. So yeah, with that being said, I guess let's get right into the video. The New York Football Giants agreed today to a 1-year, basically $6.5 million contract with Mike Remmers. $2.5 million of it is fully guaranteed, and then the other $4 million would be through playtime incentives. Now, I've talked about Remmers before. I'm pretty sure I mentioned him either in my mock draft video or something else, or if it wasn't my mock draft video, maybe some type of pre-draft or even draft video. But I know I've mentioned Mike Remmers before as a possibility for the Giants to sign. Ever since he was released by the Minnesota Vikings, I thought that he would be a sensible pickup because of the connections and because he's a veteran right tackle and that knows how to play his position. The connections, of course, being when he spent his time at Carolina, his last couple years there, Dave Gettleman was the general manager. But also something a lot of people don't know, Mike Shula was the offensive coordinator at Carolina during his time there. And then when he went to the Vikings, Pat Shurmur, the Giants head coach, was the offensive coordinator at the Vikings there for that 1 year that he was there with them. Well, he was with the Vikings for 2 years, but Shurmur his last year was, of course, 2017. Then he came to us, the Giants, 2018 as the new head coach. So that's the connections. But then also Remmers is a veteran. He's 30 years old. He's basically played on 3 teams, but he knows his way around the offensive line, most notably the right tackle position. He's played at left tackle and I believe right guard at Carolina, where he did an okay job. Yeah, he did an okay job. Then he really impressed at Minnesota when Minnesota picked him up. And he played as a right tackle in 2017, and he impressed them so much so that they gave him a 5-year deal. I don't know the specifics of that contract, but it was 5 years, maybe around $30-40 million. The market then was very different than it is now. But he returns to was basically his natural position, because in 2017 he was unfortunately injured, and then he had to play right guard when he came back from his injury. He didn't come back and play right tackle. So because of that, Remmers have sort of fallen off the map of O-linemen that you'd want to get, both because of the injury. Well, 3 things really, because the injury, 2, the fact that he came back as a right guard, and 3, because people thought he was locked up for the 5 years. Now then, since Minnesota had moved him into right guard, which is not a position that he was built for or trained for, he obviously did not perform well. They sort of backed out of the contract and released him. He became a free agent, and that's when rumors began. Really, that's when sensible ideas, like this is a very sensible move, came up that he might come to the Giants. Now originally, and actually no, I still do, when I mentioned him originally, I'm pretty sure I said I don't want to sign him because I am very wary of the injuries. I'm also a bit wary of the age. I mean, it's not like we have an old offensive line or anything, but the way it's built right now, first and foremost, most definitely, it's completely different from last year. It is definitely on paper a lot better than last year's offensive line. We have Nate Solder starting at left tackle, who is still, in my opinion, a top 10 left tackle in the league, maybe towards that bottom 8 to 10. We got Will Hernandez, who is definitely a top 10 left guard in the league, probably the second best guard out of last year's rookie sets, right behind Quentin Nelson. We got John Jalapeno or Spencer Pulley, because I don't know who's going to win in the OTAs, in the battle in the offseason, who's going to win that starting job. Right now it's looking like Jalapeno, but I don't know how he's going to come back from his injury. Even if it is Jalapeno, I'll be glad, because Pulley is still on the roster, and we've seen him. He's very capable. He's average, but he's very capable as a starter for the center position. Then at right guard, we got Kevin Zeitler, who is arguably a top 5, maybe even top 2 right guard in the entire league. And now we have Mike Remmers, who I'm not going to rank because he hasn't played right tackle in 2 years and because of his injury. But when he did play right tackle, he was a top 10 person at his position. He was a very, very elite right tackle. With that being said, I hope he returns from his injury and picks up as though nothing left off, and I hope he returns from his injury and plays like he did at right tackle, because he was a really bad right guard for the Vikings. I am surprised that they let him go initially back in March. I think they let him go. I have no idea why, but he comes over here. He's gonna have the coaching that he had in Minnesota and the coaching that he had in Carolina that earned him his contract in Minnesota. So from a coaching standpoint, there should be no reason he really should struggle. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the only thing I'm really worried about is his injury. His age and knowledge, I am super happy to get. I'm completely happy to get, because before we signed him, I really thought that George Asafo-Ajay, the right tackle out of Kentucky that we drafted, was going to be our starter. I thought he would have beaten out Chad Wheeler in not in the rookie camp, in OTAs and stuff. I thought by the time regular season came around, he would have been the starting right tackle. Now then, it is possible that he still does that, because we don't know. I mean, the football world is crazy, but Remmers is the clear-cut favorite. Even then, it's still a good situation for him, because he sits behind now two really good left tackles that have been seasoned throughout the league. Two really good left tackles that could teach him a lot in offensive tackles that could teach him a lot in Nate Solder and Mike Remmers. Who knows? Maybe he learned so much from it and then developed so much that by the time Nate Solder steps down, or by the time Nate Solder starts to decline, he steps in at left tackle, or even same thing with Mike Remmers. By the time he starts to decline, by the time he steps down, he just steps in and fills in that tackle position. So I still find it really good for this guy George AA that we drafted out of Kentucky. I see it as a win for him. I don't know how he would look at it. He'd probably be like, damn, my starting position is gone. No, not really. I mean, you just got some better veterans to learn from. So yeah, this is kind of it's a small move, but it goes back to what I was saying in the Trust Dave Gettleman video. I'll put it up in the eye in the top right corner for you guys, where I said that within a year Dave Gettleman completely changed our offensive line, and then within 2 years he made it a lot better from what it was before. I mean, I'm not gonna look this up. I'm just gonna pull it straight from my head. In 2017, our starting offensive line was Eric Flowers at right tackle, John Jerry at left guard, Weston Richburg at center, Justin Pugh at right guard, and Bob something, I can't even remember this dude's name that we had at right tackle, and that was one of the worst. If not, no, it was the worst in 2017. The Texans was the worst offensive line in 2018, but in 2017, I don't care what anybody says, I don't care what any stat says, we as Giants fans know that was the absolute worst offensive line in the entire league. And then in 2018, we had a lot of changes, we had a lot of flip-flops, but by the end of the year, it basically boiled down to Nate Solder, Will Hernandez, Spencer Pulley, Jamon Brown, and Chad Wheeler. And even then, that's not a great offensive line. We still had Saquon running for basically going for 2,000 scrimmage yards on every single defense that he faced. Now we have what is on paper one of the best offensive lines in the league. I'd say top 12, maybe top 10 on paper. And if it works out like it is scripted out here, first of all, I'm not only excited for protection around Eli and then of course future Daniel Jones, I am super excited to see what Saquon does behind this line. He now finally has a good offensive line, because even in college, even at Penn State, Saquon Barkley did not have a good offensive line. That's why he was so good when he came to the Giants. He knows how to dodge tackles in the backfield. He knows how to get out the backfield really well, because he's never really had a good offensive line. Truthfully, I'm expecting him to go off for like 1,600 yards on the ground alone, but just wishful thinking. So then, that's my opinion on Mike Remmers. I think it's a good pickup. Whether or not he's a starting right tackle remains to be seen. He's clearly the favorite. If he is, then I'm happy for our dude George, because he can still learn behind two really good veterans. Now then, of course, the only other big move there is to really talk about is the signing of Rod Smith, former running back for the Dallas Cowboys. And unlike Mike Zemmers, where I have basically a nice stated position, a nice stable position on the signing, I have no idea what to think about Rod Smith, because it also was coupled with the release of Robert Martin, who was a undrafted free agent from last year, and he performed really well in the preseason and OTAs and rookie minicamps. but we never saw him in the regular season. We never saw him up against actual NFL competition, and we never had any reason to believe that, I don't know, that he would be a bad running back or a bad backup running back to Saquon Barkley. So it's kind of disappointing to see him just let go without seeing any type of real production out of him, similar to Davis Webb. But I mean, it is what it is. My quick opinions on Rod Smith from the Dallas Cowboys. I like his size. He's a huge bruiser back. He's 6'3", 231 pounds. He's huge as a running back in terms of the size. I mean, in terms of weight, like, this really just makes you realize how big Saquon is. I don't think people really realize how big Saquon Barkley is. Saquon is like 6 feet flat and 234 pounds. I mean, he's a huge dude too, but obviously, like I said before, it's all about protecting him by having somebody behind him that could take the hits. And Rod Smith is definitely that. He's a bruiser back. When he was with the Seahawks, they used him as a fullback, which he looks kind of built for. So, I mean, I like the pickup in the terms of he's somebody that could just take hits. For the Cowboys, he was the backup for Zeke Elliott, but even as backup, he didn't really do much work. In fact, most of his work was against the Giants. I keep thinking back to a game, I think it was in 2017 during Zeke's suspension, where he went off for almost 200 scrimmage yards on us, and I was looking at the game and I didn't even know who he was. I was just like, who is this random running back that the Cowboys have that's just, you know, actually producing against us? Which does bring up the question, all his production, or even lack of production, is that like a result of the Dallas Cowboys running scheme, and even the fact that they have the best offensive lineman in the NFL? I mean, or, you know, one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. Is it a result of that? We never saw much of him in Dallas, obviously, because they had Zeke. Maybe if they put him in there, he had similar production to Zeke, you know, who knows? But I don't know what to think about this. I thought it was kind of unnecessary, because we have like a bunch of running backs right now on the roster to even like sift through to see who's gonna be that third back. Because I think I'm convinced. I'll be surprised if Wayne Gallman is not number 2 at this point. They're looking for a good number 1. I'd also be surprised if they replaced Elijah Penny at fullback, because he's done a you know, a good job at being our fullback. But I mean, I'm also surprised that they released Robert Martin, because we just didn't see anything out of him. I mean, this is just a confusing move. I don't know what Rod Smith is gonna do. Hopefully it's not a repeat of Jonathan Stewart. That's all I could ask for. As long as it's not a repeat of Jonathan Stewart, where it's like we signed the guy and we basically wasted money on him because he's like past his prime, or he's just terrible. He can't do anything right now. We still got Jonathan Hillman, undrafted free agent, and Dominic. Excuse me, guys. I just belched. So we still got Jonathan Hillman out of Rutgers, and Dominic Bragalone. Forgot his college, but 2 promising prospects. And then Paul Perkins, who I forgot was on the team, is still here. He disappeared after the 2016 season, but he's still on the roster. And then Robert Martin got released. I mean, there's probably a couple other guys, but I don't know where Rod Smith is going to fit in. If he does make it onto the roster, all I could ask for is that he produces and that he could take the hits well. That's about it for today's videos, guys. Let me know what you all think. Let me know if you like Mike Remmers. Let me know what you think about the new, revamped, completely steel-built offensive line that Dave Gettleman has us with here. You could say what you want about this guy with drafting Daniel Jones and trading Odell Beckham Jr., but he knows how to build offensive and defensive lines. That is his forte. We've seen him done it in Carolina, and now we're seeing him do it here. Yes, he did not do everything for that Super Bowl Carolina team, but he did give them that offensive line. And hopefully we got similar results over here. So far, so good on the offensive side. That's all I got to say about it. I'm out.